And welcome back. This is your man Warrior, and this is an in-depth character review for CT7567 Rex. Now, it has been a few months since I have done character reviews, and that's partially due to my time schedule, as well as there's just been so many new characters in the game, and so much has evolved over the last few months. I wanted the dust to settle, so to speak. So we're going to get right into it. Now, the first thing I want to go over is why Rex? Why would somebody want to have Rex on their team? Now, he is usable in every single facet of the game, from cantina battles, light side missions, raids to arena, but there are two primary reasons why people have and get Rex, and I'll talk about the secondary first. The secondary is raids. People use him in the Rancor raid because even on his basic, he does turn meter removal. Plus, he can give turn meter to the entire team when he cleanses. So because of his turn meter give and because of his turn meter removal, he's turn meter manipulating, and that benefits you in the Rancor raid. But the first and primary reason why people would want Rex on their team is because he's a phenomenal leader. He is an anti-meta character, and what I mean by that is he is against any of the metas that have been in the past, any of the metas that are current. The only singular team I can think of that he wouldn't necessarily be phenomenal against would be offensive only, Darth Nihilus-led Sith team. That is the only team that might stunt his ability to be a phenomenal leader. Otherwise, every other team composition that's out there, he's going to excel at being the counter for that particular team. For example, Darth Vader leads, he's a counter for that. Darth Maul leads, he's a counter for that. Jedi leads, he's a counter for that. Evasion metas, he's a counter for that. So when you are talking about what leader to pick, he is and has been a phenomenal leader for a very long time. So I recommend everybody get Rex for that reason. Now, he is phenomenal for a couple of reasons. We're going to go over his abilities in a minute, but basically, long story short, the turn meter removal and the turn meter gain that he gives to his own team is awesome. Plus, he can do a heavy hit with 25% of max health damage. But the second reason why is because he can give a cleanse. He is the best cleanser in the game, and when I say he's the best cleanser, I mean every cleanser in the game that can cleanse, right, to take off those negative status effects, those red boxes, the red over their head, he'll get those gone like any other cleanser. The difference is he puts tenacity up. Now, a lot of people may say, oh, well, there's all these characters that put tenacity up, Turret does it, blah blah blah. Yes, they will add tenacity up potentially for a couple of rounds if the person didn't have negative status effects over their head to begin with. So the reason why Rex is so amazing is not only is he the best cleanser in the game, but he specifically removes the red boxes and replaces it with a green tenacity box, preventing any further negative status effects from being added for 3 turns. Now, he gets to use this ability every 4 turns, so 3 out of every 4 turns, in theory, you could have tenacity up on your characters. The only real counter to this is going to be anybody who removes dispels, such as B2. B2 is kind of the counter to a Rex-led team. B2 is definitely another great character to farm. But Rex, aside from B2 or maybe a Darth Nihilus lead, is going to basically shine in every other category or facet because he has the best cleanse in the game. So overall, as far as his overall stats and gameplay, his power is average. He averages around 8346, and I've got him around 96. So you can add about 1,200, 1,000 to 1,200 power with mods. As far as his speed, he starts at about 140. That's average speed. 130 is about average, so he's actually a slight bit above average on speed. As far as health, he's one of the lowest health characters in the game. Now, I'll tell in the future, I'll tell you a secret about why that's actually kind of a cool thing if you pair him with Barriss Offee, but we'll talk about that in a minute. And but he's really low in health. The average health is, you know, roughly around 18,000, and he's only at about 13,000. He's one of the lowest in the game. And his potency is naturally low at only 18%, which is really, really low. And you're going to need your potency for the Rancor to be over 60%, preferably over 80% if you're going to use him in that raid. For the heroic raid, you'll want him as close to 80% as possible. As far as his protection, again, it's very low. It goes from about 10,000 to 37,000 protection, and he's just at partially 15,000. And he's about average as far as credits, how many credits you're going to spend to level him up. You know, the average is between almost 400,000 to over 700,000, and he's right at about, you know, 5,000 credits to level up. Now, let's go ahead and talk about where to farm him. So you can farm him in the fleet store from time to time. You can also farm him from time to time over in the guild store. So those are two locations where you can get him. You'll have to keep your eye out in both of those stores to make sure that you're finding him when he drops, because he's not going to drop all the time. All right, so the overall raid gear requirement is between 1 to 7 raid gear parts, and he's at 2, so he only requires 2 raid gear pieces. That is extremely low. As far as gold pieces, he only requires 0. 0, that's right, only 0. There is none, and the average is about 250, 270-ish, and he's at 0 right now, so there's no gold required. And for purple, he is about average at only 1,100. Now, the part you see there that I don't have done yet, that is probably the worst one that you could possibly have to level up. It requires over 250 pieces to build it, and after you spend the 250 to build it, you can put it in there. So that, I know a lot of people complain about stun cuffs where there's 50. This requires over 250 components to complete it. So definitely at the high end, it's definitely difficult to finish him, but he is easy to gear to level 9, gear level 9, and then gear 10 and gear 11. It's going to take a little bit of time. Let's go ahead and go over his attacks and abilities. He has a basic, 2 specials, and a unique ability. His basic ability is called Impeding Shot, and it's just going to do some physical damage. It's not a ton of damage, it's average, but it will do the physical damage, and it will remove 25% turn meter. It's not a percentage chance, it will remove 25% turn meter if it passes a potency tenacity check. So what that means is, as long as your potency is greater than the opponent's character's tenacity, you're going to get a 25% turn meter reduction. This is why his potency needs to be raised, and he's naturally a low potent character, so remember that as far as mods go. As far as his first special, it's called Squad Discipline, and it's going to be used potentially up to every 4 turns, and this is the best dispel in the game. It dispels all negative status effects on all allies, and it replaces it with tenacity up for 3 turns. When tenacity's up, no negative status effects are going to be applied. If he's on a clone team, they're all going to gain 60% turn meter, which is huge, but even so, they're going to gain an additional 10% turn meter for each effect dispelled this way. Now, all other allies, which if you're playing them without clones, this is going to apply to everybody else as well, they're going to get half as much, which means they're going to get 30% turn meter when he dispels. That's a huge boost. That's more than Stormtrooper Han provided when he was being utilized as a boost. Same thing with Sith, Assassin, and whatnot. So this is really, really huge. This is a huge boost to your team as far as turn meter goes. And then they'll get an additional 5% turn meter for each negative effect dispelled this way. So he's going to cleanse them, replace it with tenacity up so they don't get more negative status effects, and give them a bunch of turn meter. If they've got 1 or 2 negative status effects, they're going to get between, 40 to 80 turn meter, based off of whether they're clones or not. That is huge as far as a turn meter gain or boost. His second Subdue can only be used every 4 turns, so you won't see this very often, but it will deal, again, physical damage, which is about average. It's not a ton, to a target enemy, but it will do bonus damage equal to 25% of their max health. Where you're going to see this as a huge advantage is against another tank or something that has a high health pool. Now, I said that as a Darth Nihilus lead, this guy is not going to be as effective because he can't, he gets turn meter on his unique, we'll talk about, with critical hits. And with Nihilus, they're not critical hitting as a lead, and so you're not going to get all that additional turn meter with him as a leader. However, having him on your team, even if he's not in the leadership position, makes this amazing against a Darth Nihilus led team, because Darth Nihilus will convert all health and protection, into the health pool, and then they get a bunch of health steal. So they're going to have a very, very, very large health pool, and he is going to do 25% of the target's maximum health. So when they convert all that protection into health, this is going to do a ridiculous amount of damage to a Nihilus-led team. So that is one of the aspects where he's usable. Even against the teams where he may be not as effective as a leader, he's still effective on the team. And lastly, Brother in Arms is his unique ability, and this is going to affect both clones and non-clones alike, kind of like his turn meter gain he gives on his cleanse. This is a similar effect. He's going to give everybody a max health boost. If they're clones, 20%. If they're non-clones, 10% max health boost. So he's helping increase the maximum health of all of his allies. Now, if he's working with, Barriss Offee or someone else where max health matters because it's going to assist them in health gain and things like that, then that is excellent. The other thing to consider is anytime an ally suffers a critical hit, which aside from a Darth Nihilus lead, that's basically every team that's ever been built in the past. Pretty much every team that's existed, they're going to try to critically hit you. Anytime anyone on your team, regardless of position, gets hit critically, they're going to gain turn meter. And it's going to be 15% turn meter for clones, and other allies gain half that amount. So it says whenever an ally suffers a critical hit, all clone allies gain 15%, and all others gain half that amount. So if they hit one of your targets, everybody gets turn meter. They hit another person critically, everybody gets turn meter. They hit another person critically, everybody gets turn meter. So you can see how ridiculously fast turn meter can add up with him. So this is why so many people love Rex, because when he's cleansing, he's protecting his team, he's increasing overall health for everybody on his unique, he's able to give turn meter on his unique through being critically hit, anyone being critically hit, and he gives turn meter on a squad disciple. Plus, he can hit for a powerful punch with his subdue with 25% max health, and his impeding shot takes away turn meter from the opponent. This is an excellent character. And then lastly, we're going to go over mods. There's two thought processes with mods. One is the way I'm going to recommend how to mod him, and then I'm going to show you how I modded him. So the recommendation for modding him is going to be having 2 potency sets and 1 health set. He needs health and he needs potency. Those are where he's weakest. Those are his lowest stats, is potency and health. So you're going to want 2 potency sets and health. Then you're going to want as much speed secondaries and protection secondaries as possible. The speed and protection secondaries are going to help with him as far as making sure that he's faster and he's protected. Now, I modded him a different way. I had a different purpose for him, and I wanted to keep him alive a little bit longer, and I wanted him to do a significant amount more damage, especially against these Darth Nihilus-led teams. And so, of course, the top left has some secondary speed and some protection, which he needs, and some health, but it has the offense. The second one had some defense, some offense, almost 100 offense, which is great, protection, some potency, which he needed, and some secondary speed. And then I added protection on these bottom 2. Now, you could, in this in the square provide him with potency, but I went ahead and added protection there. But in the circle, I added protection, and it had additional protection and offense, so I'm making him more durable. Here you could add speed as a primary, but I went ahead, and because there's so much turn meter gain, he can be less speedy as a leader, so he provides more offense with this mod and more speed and more health, and then there was more tenacity in there. And then again, I went with another offense on the offense, so it's an offense mod with offense. It had a lot more protection and health, and then lastly, again, I went with more protection. So what happens with the way I have him modded is he's not as fast, but as a leader, he's going to speed up the whole team, including himself, through a multitude of ways, so he doesn't need to be quite as fast, and he's really weak health-wise, so I've increased his health and his protection. And then there's some superficial speed additions that I have done with these mods. And then lastly, I have used an offense mod so I could increase his overall offense stat. So if you look at his stats, you'll see that I've got his protection up, his speed up just a little bit. His potency's increased a little. Now my potency is low, and the only thing that's negative on is his turn meter removal of 25%. Now, he does still apply it from time to time, but it's not as efficient or effective. But I do not use him in the Rancor raid, and I am more worried about him doing as much possible offense damage to a Darth Nihilus-led team, which is why I've got him the way I have him. He has about a third tenacity, and his physical damage, I was able to get up over 700 over the base stat, to where he's at 2846 now for physical damage. Both his abilities are physical damage attributes. So his subdue that he does and his impeding shot both are going to do physical damage, which is simply a classification of damage. So let's see where he ends up with my overall Galaxy Star rating. We know he's a phenomenal leader. We know he's one of the best in the game. You can now farm him, and he's got turn meter removal as well as turn meter gain in a couple of different ways. He can do a lot of damage, and he is relevant, has been relevant, will continue to be relevant. What's his Galaxy Star rating? Hop in the ship with me and let's find out where he stands. Thank you for watching. If you like this shortened version of the in-depth character reviews, please make sure you like, share, and subscribe. As always, keep your gaming on. Warrior out.